Hey everybody, it's Uncle Gary. Beautiful Saturday. Been a stormy Saturday. Beautiful stormy day in East Texas. Man, we needed the rain, so I'm glad it rained and my grass may grow a little bit before fall hits. But anyway, guys, I've been thinking about this all last week. You can't turn on the news without hearing about Fauci. And I want to talk about the Fauci factor and the real problem that we have is not Fauci. There's something much more uh, overarching that we need to deal with, and that we've needed to deal with for 100 years in America. And a lot of people really have a lot of division on this, but they'd rather us fight over little human cockroaches like Anthony Fauci than really deal with the real problem. And I think Trump is actually dealing with the real problem, and his cabinet they're working in that direction. And there's a lot of forces that are trying to stop the the battle that's going on against a huge government that has the power to do anything it wants to the American people. And that's the real point here, guys. Uh, Fauci, I mean, there's no doubt he lied to us. He lied to us, and people died. I remember I remember when everything happened, and the whole everybody was scared. We were created. We were actually made to be afraid. A virus that was basically engineered, a weaponized cold virus, coronavirus is what that is. It's the common cold. And I remember a guy in the 1970s told me you're going to see the most deadly thing's going to happen is the cold will kill more people. And I was like, what the heck? This was in the 70s, and he was a guy that traveled all over the world. And I don't know who he was or what he knew. He was an oil field worker, as I recall. And anyway, I think about that often. I wish I knew that guy and we could talk, but there's just it just blew my mind that the whole world was put into panic, and and we were forced to, as we learned in this very enlightening testimony that Fauci gave a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. I remember the whole uh, the whole Fifth Amendment 111 times, I think it was. That's really whatever. I mean, the man's in legal peril. Obviously, he's scared of being in legal peril, and I'm not an expert on judicial matters, and I'm not even gonna get into the weeds. There's plenty of podcasts. All you got to do is check with Candace Owens, and she'll tell you why the Jews control everything and what caused him uh, peril. Anyway, I'm going to talk about an overarching thing. I mean, I'm very upset at Fauci because. When this pandemic came out, he was the face in front of all of us. He was on the news, and he was put on the news, and he was the expert. And we were always taught to believe the experts. I mean, when I was a kid, I was given vaccines. I remember I still got the scar from my polio vaccine. I'm glad I got it because it stopped a true deadly pestilence that was killing a lot of people. And so I'm not one of these people that says every vaccine is bad, but listen, if you're one of these people that I don't understand vaccine hesitancy, for reals? You don't understand that? Uh, anyway, I'm not going to be first in line to get anything the government tries to throw at me, especially if they try to make me do it. I'm just stubborn from East Texas, and no, you're not going to do that to me. I'm open minded. I really am open minded, but I'm not open minded to stupid coercive tactics. During the pandemic, I got into a little spat. Well, you can't really call it a spat because a spat's two ways. With the mayor of Longview, he didn't even respond to me. He didn't even respond to my question. And all my question was, and I wanted to know from the mayor of Longview, Texas, why are you instituting a 9 p.m. curfew every night? And there's a mandate this curfew that we can't be out after dark, basically after 9 o'clock, can't be out and about. And And I just wanted everybody to know I intentionally would leave the house at 9 o'clock and just go wander around just because I can. And maybe that's a stubborn American thing. Maybe that's the patriot thing to do, but that's what I did. And I don't care if anybody knew it because you're not going to tell me I cannot be out as a law-abiding citizen and go anywhere I want to go. Anyway, I'm just stubborn that way. And I remember the one question that I asked was, what is the empirical evidence that this virus is going to get us at night? Is there, and I remember asking, is there like a nocturnal COVID ninja that comes out at night? It's going to get us? And we need to know about this. If they're lurking around Longview. I mean, we'll go shoot it because you are in East Texas. But anyway, I digress. I just want y'all to know I knew something wasn't right. And I think a lot of you did. A lot of us did. We just knew something wasn't right about this. But Fauci was so convincing. And Burke, that other doctor that was on her face was on TV a lot. These are our experts. And then there were other experts. Dr. Peter McCullough of Baylor stood up and began to speak a different point of view and say, "No, hold it, y'all are wrong. This is not what's going." And he began to argue a different point of view, and he was summarily fired from his job in the Baylor hospital system, and was silenced by Fauci and the experts. And now that we're looking at it in hindsight, this is why we should never forget. I'm not bitter about the past, but I'm never going to forget it. And we were told by the experts, you trust us. We are, like Anthony Fauci said, I am the science. All right, Mr. Science. Then why did you write in your diaries the exact opposite of what you said publicly? Why is it that you really believed it came from a lab, but you didn't say that to anybody? There are people dead today because Anthony Fauci lied to us. Anthony lied and people died. And I have dear friends that are dead today because of what that man did. And so, and if that doesn't give you some heartburn, I know people who've been injured by the vaccine, by the way, who developed horrible diseases, who had strokes, who died, and who had all kind of side effects, in or myocarditis or endocard, the blood clots in the heart, and all kinds of other things that just came up right after they got vaccinated. Many of them are disabled today. Some of them are disabled and can't even work anymore. And so there's a lot of stuff that needs to be litigated and dealt with. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a jurisprudence expert. But I'm telling you guys, something was fishy when our president Otto Penn gave a pardon that basically pardons Anthony Fauci of any crimes that may have been. It doesn't even name a crime. I mean, he could gone out and rob banks and be okay. Anything he could have done between this period and this, and there's some discussion on that. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to revisit that, and maybe the Supreme Court will eventually weigh in on it. But they did find Anthony Fauci's phone from the COVID era, and actually it was an image of his phone, a cloud version or whatever, but it had been sequestered and secreted on multiple servers. And the reason we haven't heard, I believe, as Jeff Childers says in the Coffee and COVID newsletter, I get a lot of information from him because he gives I recommend reading him because he's not an extremist in either direction. He's just a highly intelligent lawyer who's litigated some of these cases over vaccines and stuff like that. But anyway, he said that it took a long time for them to get the phone information, and it took a while to get the diary stuff. I think they had to piece it together from multiple servers. And if we've been planning for a pandemic my whole life, our experts have been doing their thing at the NIH and the Center for Disease Control, and boy, they've been. And you would think they'd have a system for immediately archiving information so that they can go back and document and find out what really happened, what people really knew. But funny, that never happened. All that information just kind of disappeared. But somehow they found his phone. And I mean, it's great conspiracy stuff. You can dig it. Maybe Candace Owens can tell us what's going on there. But I, I'm just kind of I marvel at that because it's a strange kind of thing that we're dealing with, and it's all over the news, and everybody's fighting, and they want us fighting with each other. But here's my overarching observation. This is my whole point for today. The problem is not Tony Fauci. The problem is not a list of individuals who we are supposed to hate. The problem is not even Joe Biden, even though he's the worst president we've ever had in history. The problem's not Donald Trump, who right now is doing a great job. I'm a Trump supporter, and I believe that what he's doing needs to be done. It's bare knuckle fighting, and we've never had a president since Reagan that had that ability or desire. And Trump is just an old northeastern New York construction guy, and he's taken them to the mat on a lot of areas. And it's been a bad, rough fight. But I tell you, the big battle here, and what we need to really think about, guys, is big government versus small government. I go back to when my daughter was 6 years old. I had a conversation with her, and I said, "Sweetheart, what's the difference between a liberal and a conservative?" I would ask her this, and I'd quiz her, and she would tell me in her 6 year old voice, liberals think the government can do anything and should do everything for us, but conservatives believe we should do for ourselves if we're able to. And it's a pretty simple answer, and it's not that complicated. If you are a diehard liberal, you tend to believe that more money in the government's hand is a good thing. The government's going to save us from whatever boogeyman is out there to get us. Well, I'm telling you guys, in my opinion, the government is the boogeyman. And we need somebody to save us from that boogeyman, which means the people voting and having the right to bring people to represent them who will fight that government that is seeking to control the people. If you can defend, no, you can't defend what the government did to American people during the pandemic. Military people kicked out and losing their rank, losing their pension because they wouldn't take the jab. Really, seriously. People losing their jobs. I know people lost their jobs because they didn't take the jab. And I would have been one of them if my company had been stupid enough to have done that. And I would be in first in line to sue them for that after the fact. And I hope there's lawsuits that just bankrupt some of these places and companies that did that kind of thing. I mean, it's very, very sick and sad. And everybody believe. I heard somebody say the other day, no, but nothing's ever going to happen to Tony Fauci. He pled the fifth, and we know he lied. His diaries say the exact opposite. All that's true, but I believe that what we really need to do is give power back to the people. And there's two ways you can do that. You can join the left-wing revolution of communism that is the Democrat Socialists of America, which is the most idiotic people I've ever met. I've met a few of them, and they're just dumb as a box of rocks. They don't understand a thing about anything. They've never worked a day in their life. They've been in college their whole life, and they have theory, but they don't have a work ethic. They're lazy. And like Margaret Thatcher said, socialism works great until you run out of other people's money. Then it gets complicated. And I've never seen anywhere, I've traveled all over the world, and I've seen communism. We'll talk more about this in the future, but then today I just wanted to hit the high points of this, that what these leftists are doing today is they're fighting for bigger government to save us from something. And I didn't see it at the time under Bush, and I really have. I argued with some of my college friends back in the 1980s when George Bush Sr. was running for president, and he became our 41st president. And I was like, I don't like him because he's a globalist. He's a one world order guy, and the Bushes were a big disappointment in so many ways. And as I say that as a registered Republican, but I voted split ticket much of my life because I was not just a party guy, and a lot of independent thinking people are that way. And I just remember during the Bushes, everything was so global oriented. But I remember that they after 9/11, and you can believe whatever you want to about that. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but one thing that I found interesting in hindsight, I didn't see it at the time. It was the Patriot Act, and it empowered government to protect me. And what it really empowered government to do was surveil me without a warrant. Government can just dig through our data and put us on lists. And because I traveled to some sensitive areas in the world, and my travel buddy that I traveled to Cuba and Russia, uh, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all over Eastern Europe with him, and he said, "Well, Gary, you're probably on a list." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about a list." We had an experience in Cuba I won't go into, but was very, very scary. And to this day, I don't know if it was the Castro regime that was after us or our own government that was trying to set us up. And it was very scary. I was concerned for my safety and for both our lives. It was very, very scary. And so anyway, guys, I'm not a big government guy. I'm a small government guy. I'm a Reagan Trump guy, and Trump's really not like Reagan. He's more of a liberal. Told people this for years. Trump is spending, and his justification for it is that everything our GDP is so tied up with government spending that if we cut all the government spending, it'll crash our economy. And I'm not surprised to hear that, and I believe that's probably intentional because these people, they're not stupid, and but they tied everything together. So if you really cut them off, you destroy the economy. And the only way to defeat this is to grow beyond it. And we've got a lot of people that don't want the government to grow, or they don't want American economy to grow. They don't want the private sector to grow. They want the public sector to grow. And so our biggest problem today, guys, is big government. And if you look at it simple like that, you can just ask yourself, well, should I vote for Ken Paxton because he's a big bad guy? He divorced his wife and he did some bad things, and we've got a Sunday school Tallarico guy with his Bible making up verses that never existed, who's running against him, and he looks like a little angelic cherub. We should vote for him because he and I that's my biggest fear in Texas, that there are enough stupid people that will go, oh, he's a nice looking guy, and just vote for him, and they don't even know his ideology. And if you understand the ideology behind the progressive movement, you'll never vote really for another Democrat again. I'll just say it that simple. I've got friends that are Democrats, so they're not going to like me saying that. But you won't vote for another rhino Republican, big government Republican. And there's a reason John Cornyn's gone. And I know a lot of people loved him greatly. And I love the fact that he's not there anymore because he did nothing for us. But he did a lot for big government. And anyway, that's my opinion. You don't have to agree. You don't have to slaughter me in the comments. But I just don't. I'm tired of people that sit up in Washington for 30, 40 years and government keeps growing. We need to reverse that trend. And so let's go for smaller government. Let's go for a government that's responsible. And they have one responsibility, that is to defend us. That's the main responsibility of the government. And so, I'm not a pro-war guy, but I don't think it's a wise decision to let a country that's been saying for 50 years they're going to kill us get a nuclear weapon. And I think that Islamic ideology, the geopolitical ideology of the Islamic people, coupled with Marxist ideology, which has now invaded the blue states. It's interesting. Marxist Islamists that are mayors of big cities and now in Congress and one primary is in Michigan, I think in Colorado, and a lot of Democrat socialists, and all they are for is bigger government. And I mean, just look at Ocasio-Cortez. Can't you just trust that? Trust her and Tallarico. Just trust them. All you got to do is give them all your money, and they'll take care of other people that are more important than you. And you'll make it all right. You'll be okay. I've been to too many communist countries. I've seen how it really works. And bless y'all's hearts if you can't see that. But really, right now, guys, what we need more than anything is a sober, small government. We need to cut spending. And every time you cut spending, everybody's going to scream, you're starving the babies. Well, might be starving some daycare that no children are in. But there's so much fraud, and it seems to just kind of be disappearing. Nobody wants to talk about it. But I believe, guys, that the issues that are coming up, they're important, and they're important battles, and Trump is fighting them, and this administration is fighting those battles. But there's a lot more to it. It's not just the cast of characters that are the villains that are on TV. And, people try to make Trump the villain, but I think the real villains, what about the Russia gate? That Trump is a Russian asset. And our own FBI issued, opened an investigation of the sitting president. And if it was as serious as they really imagined it to be, to open this investigation and try to destroy him as a Russian spy, I mean, what would you do? You'd either have to do a coup or just assassinate somebody if they're that truly, if we're infiltrated by an enemy, and that's the ruse that they pushed over on us. So do I trust anybody in big government? Nope. I don't trust anybody in big government. I don't trust anybody, uh, especially the ones that are socialists, that are pushing socialist ideas and the spending. We need to bring some sober leadership into the United States. So uh, heard a lot of my friends say, "Well, I'm not going to vote. I'm just tired of all the fighting." Well, their plan's working. What you ought to do is get up and vote. Find find in every election there's somebody who is for smaller government, for more fiscal responsibility, for more moral character, and that's against racism. And I'm not talking about the socialists that are screaming racism against white people. I'm talking about the Margaret Sanger abortion eugenics plan that was designed to kill black people. If you really knew the truth about abortion, you'd be a diehard Republican, just like many black people are changing to Republican because the Democrats have gone whack, man. And so people need to wake up and start saying it. I know what I'm saying. You're not allowed to say, "Oh, you shouldn't say that." Somebody might think something bad about me. Well, I've had a lot of people worse than you think bad things about me. So bring it on. I love y'all, but guys, really, I don't want to panic anybody. I don't want anybody to think I've gone crazy into a conspiracy land, but I really do believe we need smaller government. And so, whatever that means, this election coming up in November, we need to elect people who are for smaller government. And we need to reduce the power of the people who killed hundreds of thousands, maybe even a million Americans during the pandemic. It was big government saving us that caused so many of those deaths. That's my opinion, and it's the opinion of many people. And we need to get our mind off of all the stuff we don't have any control over, like is Fauci one of the lizard people that came here from outer space? Well, he may be. I'm not saying he's not, but there's not a lot you can do about that. If we're that far gone, just vote Republican. Love you guys. Y'all have a good one. Sorry, my opinions are my opinions, and I love y'all anyway. Even if you don't think like me, we can talk about it. Bye.